Hello Orchid friends, welcome back to my channel. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day, staying healthy and staying safe. Today we're going to look at 3 of my new orchids from Joseph Wood's Orchid Nursery. This is the second batch within the past 12 months. I just love the orchids. And by the way, if you are in the US, they have a partner that's in the US that would import their orchids. And sometimes when they come to the US for orchid shows, you can also pre-order with them. And I would include their links in the description below. And if you're interested, go ahead and contact them and see how you can get their orchids. Okay, so the first one you already saw, it's a primary hybrid between Violacea and Procra. This one is also another very interesting orchid. It was during the summer months that these orchid came to me, and because this one already was, at the end of its bloom cycle, and because of really warm temperature, so you see some of that burnt edges. It's completely normal, nothing, too serious there. And this is the third orchid. This one is also really fragrant, and I love how the markings as well as the background yellow complement each other. So these 3 orchids are the new ones that I think will have very, very good performance going forward. Fingers crossed. This is just a short video to show you how they look like and how they were doing at the time of the unboxing. This first one, it's a primary hybrid, and I love that it has Procra in it because just recently I had my Procra grown from young plant blooming for the first time, and it was really striking. So this one also has Procra in it, and the color really shows it. That red/purpleness is just something really interesting that I love. And also it has a huge amount of aerial roots, so I'm gonna have to do something about that because my environment, sometimes it's humid enough, sometimes it isn't. So I think I will have to either spray it down or turn up my humidifier. The second one has a bud that is still developing, so I was trying to not disturb it as much as I could, so that way it would bloom, because I really wanted to see how that orchid's fresh flower will look like. And the third one, I didn't see any buds, so I knew that these 2 flowers are the 2 probably first blooms, and this orchid would, I'll have to wait for the next bloom cycle, which is next year, for me to see the third orchid bloom again. But that's okay. That's how it goes. So this is what they look like when I first got them. They were all potted in moss, traditional, growing method with holes at the bottom. Initially, I only found small cups, so I put them in small plastic cups, but eventually I was able to find more 16-ounce cups, so I put them in 16-ounce cups just to have a little bit of, semi-division, and that way they're quarantined. So this is what I use to give them set amount of water. Either I use a syringe or I just measure 1/4 cup and make a marking on the cup, so that way if I know I want to do 1/8 of a cup, I can eyeball it. So either way works really well for me. I love either way. Sometimes I prefer to use a syringe. Sometimes I prefer to just eyeball it, depending on what I see with the orchid, depending on whether I have time. And of course, with the first orchid, I knew I had to spray down the aerial roots from time to time to keep those roots healthy. And when I repot this orchid, which you're gonna see now, I would work these aerial roots into the media. And how I do that is, I in addition to soaking this orchid, I will have to make sure the aerial roots are also dampened. And usually the easiest way is to take it under a faucet and just rinse it for a while, wait, and then you go back to it, so that way they are softer to work with for you to be able to work into the media. The second orchid also has rather decent root system. And it was also not very difficult for me to wash off all the moss pieces in between roots. So it was really nice. The third orchid also was really good in terms of root system. So all three of these, I decided to use a mixture of hydrocorn and manto clay. Manto clay being the smaller clay pebbles. And the ratio, I usually eyeball it. It's about 1-to-1 ratio. And some of these orchids are actually on the smaller size, so I didn't use the full-blown 6-ounce cup. I actually went with 12-ounce cup to give them, to put them in. These orchids all have drainage holes at the bottom, but I would always use double cup method, so that way it gives me more flexibility, because if I decide to have a little bit of extra water at the bottom, the water can go through the drainage holes into the inner cup. So that is also pretty cool. Now coming up, I do have 2 orchids from the first batch of Joseph Wu orchids, and if you missed that video, it's in my channel, go search for it. 2 of them I decided to repot them because one of them started to show a little bit of dehydration, and sure enough the roots were rotting, and that's probably my fault because sometimes with these new orchids I just give them, I eyeball the water amount, and sometimes the moss is too broken down and it's too water retentive, and I probably didn't do a good job with the ventilation either, so this orchid suffered from root rot. And the reason I said it's not really, it's really my fault because this is a video clip of how the orchid first came to me. You can see it was not having any signs of dehydration, and the fact that it continued to bloom for me tells me that it was okay then. So I knew that it was somewhere during my care that I somehow upset it, so it rotted its roots. But it's okay, we're gonna do what we can. I'm gonna do what I can to help this orchid to put out more roots, to then do better, so I'll keep you guys posted. And if I end up killing this orchid, I'll be honest with you too. Okay, so here after the repot, I decided to soak this orchid real good because it was already dehydrated, so there's no need for me to leave it for another week without water because there's no roots. So I really needed to make sure that it has water. So this is a second orchid, and that flower photo was the photo I took from its last bloom. Same thing, small root system, but this one has decent roots, and I put them in an 8-ounce cup with also a mixture of manto clay and hydrocorn, and this one is about 1-to-1 ratio, give or take. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!